We're going to chapter 6 tonight in Luke. This is the first time I've ever seen it called this, the Sermon on the Plain. We talk about the Sermon on the Mount a lot, but this particular one, when it talks about it, it's talking as it was on a flat spot. And that's kind of different. I mean, I guess I just missed that over the years. Verse 1 says, "Now it happened on the second Sabbath after the first that he went through the grain fields, and his disciples plucked the heads of grain and ate them, rubbing them in their hands. And some of the Pharisees said to them, 'Why are you doing what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath?'" And so this is started. Here again, there's little bits and pieces. This is one of the first piece of this chapter. And again, Luke is specifying it. It's the first Sabbath, it's the second Sabbath after the first that they went through the grain fields. And they say the first one, we don't know exactly which one that is. A lot of the commentators kind of think that this was the first Sabbath after they had a feast. Okay? One of the feasts, I believe I don't think it's Passover, but one of the feasts lasts for 14 days. Okay? So it starts out, you have Sabbath, and then you have the time of Passover, and then you have another Sabbath afterwards. And that's what some people think that they may have been referencing, okay? Because he said before there was another Sabbath. On this was the first Sabbath, talked about a week or two ago. This is the second Sabbath Sabbath. So, and it's just showing us that Jesus, he's getting ready to go into a different town, and evidently the Pharisees and the Sadducees was following them, okay? They were traveling. And as they were traveling, they went out and they were hungry. They hadn't had either breakfast or lunch or something. So they just grabbed wheat. You know how wheat is. It's got the grains all along it. And they just kind of rub it up and get a whole bunch of grain in their hands and rub it and then pop it in their mouth. Kind of like, not like sunflower seeds because you have to really crack them open, but you rub them together and the hull comes off of this wheat and you can just chomp them up and eat them. That's the way they make the bread, you know. They squish them all up and make the flour. So that's what they had done. And because of that, the Pharisees asked Jesus, why are they doing what's not lawful? What do you think's not lawful about that? They're just eating. It's work. It's work. They're rubbing the thing together. They were guilty of reaping, threshing, winnowing, where you're getting rid of the deal, and preparing food. All in that little, just grabbing it and swishing it in their hands and popping it in their mouth. It says this approach to the Sabbath continues today among Orthodox Jews. It says in early 1992, tenants let 3 apartments in an Orthodox neighborhood burn to the ground while they asked a rabbi whether a telephone call to the fire department on the Sabbath would violate Jewish law. Their observant Jews are forbidden to use the phone on the Sabbath because doing so would break an electrical current, which is considered a form of work. In the half hour it took the rabbi to decide, yes, it would be, the fire spread to 2 neighboring apartments. And that's where Jesus was trying to say, you guys are so stupid. Where's your common sense?
Well, the Pharisees probably already were saying probably walk further than they were supposed to.
Yeah, probably walked further than that. Yeah, that's exactly right. I know when they showed that in The Chosen, it was quite a ways from the city. So they had to have been, when they were doing that, it very typically could have been.
I'm sitting on the couch eating bonbons. It's a day of rest.
It's a day of rest, yeah. But you better have them bonbons already prepared and don't make them. You got to sit them out. You can't open the refrigerator door. Their things are pretty, and I told this before and I may have told it, but when we were over there in Israel, they have one elevator, like you can't break an electrical current, okay? In an elevator, when you push the button, that breaks that current, tells it to come to that floor. So that would be doing work. So on the Sabbath over there, they'll have one elevator that stops at every floor, going up and coming down. So you can get on or get off, and you don't have to do any work. That's a fact. I mean, that's what happened over there. It's amazing how. And there was another thing, and it wasn't on the Sabbath this time. This guy was walking down the street, is one of the tour guides that I was saying, and he's Jewish, but he was walking down the street. He was on the left side of the road, or his side. On the right side was the Jewish section. So everybody that was in the Jewish section over there. So he was video people coming to the Sabbath, coming into the Temple Mount, going to celebrate, because it was a big celebration. They were having a lot of stuff. And he said, now, if I was on the other side, they would make me quit videotaping. Just be on the other side of the street. He could videotape them and do whatever he wanted on this side of the street because he was in their section, in their area. So it's just amazing that the rules that they have. Here's one that gives me two. Many rabbis filled Judaism with elaborate rituals related to the Sabbath and observant of other laws. Ancient rabbis taught that the Sabbath was one was forbidden to tie a knot, except for a woman. She could tie a knot in her girdle. Okay, at the time, that's what they did. They tied them up. So if you needed a bucket of water, you had to ask a lady to go get it, and she would tie her girdle to the rope, and the rope to the bucket, and then she could pull it up. Now that's a legal lawyer-looking loophole to me. It is a lot of work for not doing work, you know. So anyway, Brother Epperson, next 3 through 5.
But Jesus answered him said, have you not read this, what David did when he was hungry? He and those who were with him, how he went into the house of God and took an ate of showbread, and also gave some to those with him, which is not lawful for any but for the priest to eat. And he said to him, the Son of Man is also Lord of the Sabbath.
Okay. So he gave him an example. Jesus gave the Pharisee an example. David, when he was with his men after Saul started hunting him and trying to track him down and kill him, he went to one of the priests, Abimelech, I believe it was, in the city, and asked if there was any bread for them to eat. And he told them only the bread that is taken out that only the priest can eat. It's the showbread. But he said if the men have not been with women and all these things, that if they're clean, then they can partake of it. And they did that. But that was forbidden. But the priest made an exception because that was there. And that's what he's trying to say. He ate the showbread and also gave some of those that were with him, his men. It was not lawful for any of them except the priests to eat it. And then he spoke the Son of Man, which we've talked about before. When he calls himself the Son of Man, he's referring to himself as the Son of God, but he puts the Son of Man in there so he doesn't rile a lot of people up, is Lord of the Sabbath. He made the Sabbath. Okay? Yes, he put it in there for a reason, because God rested on the Sabbath, is what they're saying, is what he said. But then you got to use a couple of common sense. What things happen, you have to go ahead and do it. He also tells them, and I don't know if it's Matthew or Mark, about the guy, if a donkey falls in a hole, are you going to leave the donkey in the hole the whole day? and not pull him out till the next day? No, you're going to pull him out if it happens, on that day. Says the human need is more important than religious ritual. At that time, being ritualistic and adhering to the law, no matter what it was, that made them righteous, I guess, is what you want to take it to mean. Darla asked a question after Wednesday night, I think it's last Wednesday night, about what do they do now? They can't do the sacrifices, so how are they, what do they think, how do they follow it? And what I read of it is those that are strictly following it, they think prayer and following, all the rules, following all these things and doing good works and, listed 4 or 5 different things, but they're all works, would make them righteous. That would put them in good stead with God. That's what currently is what they're doing, what they're believing until the sacrifices start again, and we know they will start at the end of days. Okay, Iris, 6 through 8.
Now it happened on another Sabbath also that he entered the synagogue and taught, and a man was there whose right hand was withered. So the scribes and Pharisees watched him closely, whether he would heal on the Sabbath, that they might find an accusation against him. But he knew their thoughts and said to the man who had the withered hand, "Arise and stand here." And he rose and stood.
Okay. Here again it says, and another Sabbath. This was his ritual as he went around to these different towns. He would go into the synagogue and preach and teach and do these things and be there with them. And he may not have even taught. Here it doesn't say he was teaching at all. He said he just observed a man that had a withered hand. Now the man with the withered hand actually probably shouldn't even have been there, because he would have been considered something because of his hand caused him, sin is the way they thought it, caused him that he shouldn't really even be there. But he saw him there and he said, and it may have been a plant, okay? The Sadducees may have brought him in so to see, because that's what it said. They wanted to find an accusation against him. So who knows? They may have set this up and brought this guy in when he really may not have, should have even been there in their books, okay? But Jesus knew their thoughts. Again, why does he know their thoughts? He's God. He's God and he's man. Knowing what they're doing is part of it. And I can't understand. I don't fully am aware of how this worked. Part of him God and part of him man. He was whole God and whole man. But it seems that sometimes he used that God part more than he used to others. And here it says that he knew their thoughts. So it's telling them that they're trying to catch him. We see that a few times in the scripture, that it said that, why do you think that? And sometimes you can get the feeling that they were even whispering over in a corner, and he calls them out on it, whatever they're whispering. And especially the lady that was caught in adultery, he probably knew their thoughts then. And that some people think he was writing down exactly their thoughts, what they were thinking, and that's why they started leaving after he told them, whoever hadn't had the first sin. So he told them to stand up, arise, stand here, and he arose and stood. Okay, Tammy, the next one, 9:11.
Then Jesus said to them, "I will ask you one thing. It is lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do evil, to save life or to destroy." And when he had looked around at them all, he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." And he did so, and his hand was restored as
Okay? So he just said, asked the Pharisees the question. He knew what was going on, why they were there. So he asked them the question, is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do evil? Well, sure, you do good. If there's something to do, you need to do good. And they didn't want to do that, so they're saying to destroy is what he said. And when he looked around at all of them, and they didn't have an answer for him, evidently, he said, stretch out your hand. And as he did so, his hand was restored. Now, we watched that on The Chosen, and I don't know if you've seen it, but as a guy, his hand was just kind of like this and all kind of curled up, and he just kind of, his hand just starts going open, and he's just like, wow, it works, you know. And it so enraged them. It said that they were filled with rage because of that, because they thought that he had broken the Sabbath by healing on it. He did no work. Okay, he spoke some words. And that's what they're calling the work. So that's when they started to try to catch him. Even before that, they were trying to catch him in an accusation, it says. They're trying to build a case against him about sending him out of the, not being in the synagogue. They can't, and of course we know afterwards he didn't go back in the synagogue after a while, except the temple. It says the modern Christian has a challenge of displaying love and compassion to all and faithfully upholding God's clearly stated moral standards on the matters of social controversy. Many things today, if you don't say nothing, a lot of times they think you're going along with them. So sometimes you have to speak up. Yes, they know. That's not according to God's word. Now there's ways of doing it. You don't have to come in like, preach a sermon to them, hellfire and, everything that's going on. But you have to point them in the right direction. That no, the word doesn't do that. Word doesn't say that, and start doing scriptures. That's what infuriated. I don't know if you ever watched Charlie Kirk, some of his videos, but if you watched him, some of the stuff when he would start quoting scriptures just infuriated the people. They just made them so mad that they're trying to cut him off, trying to put everything, and he'd listen to them, and then he'd say, look, this is the way it is. This is the way the Bible was. This is the way it says. And that's the way it's showing us, that's the way Christ was doing, just what we need to be doing also. It says, obviously their rage and plotting of murder discussed with one another what they might do to Jesus were far greater violations of the Sabbath than healing the man's withered hand. They've already started to talk about accusing him of blasphemy and all the different things. They're trying to get rid of him. Why?
They were just threatened.
They were. Why? They were threatened. They're going to lose their power. Rome was going to go and take over. Somebody else, is more powerful than they are because he does these miracles and the people are flocking to him, and they're going to lose their status, their power, those things. So that's a lot of commentators say that's what was the driving force behind the Sanhedrin, the Pharisees and Sadducees. Not all of them, but a majority of them. They had gone beyond what following the law was. They wanted to maintain what they had, and only way they can do that is to keep everything the same. And that's what Jesus was saying. I came to fulfill the law. You guys are just keeping the itty bitsy. And he goes in and one point says, you're tithing the anise and the cumin, your herbs. You're tithing that when you're missing the whole big picture. Okay? It says, Jesus often rebuked the religious leaders of his day for this kind of heart. He said of them, laying aside the commandment of God, you hold the tradition of men all too well you reject the commandment of God, that you may keep your tradition, making the word of God no effect through your tradition. And one of the things that they were doing is, if a person said, this is given to God, this, my money, my whatever, but my mom and dad need some money to fix something, I can't give them to that because I've given this to God. Even though they're not using it, they didn't actually give it to God, they set it aside to God. That was what the term was. So you have $1 million over here in a bank account. Well, that's going to be God's. That's, I'm going to give that to God. That's His part. But your mom and dad needs that for whatever else. He's saying that's wrong. You need to take care of what you need to take care of. They took care of you. You need to take care of them. Simple as that. It says Jesus wasn't trying to reform the Sabbath. He tried to show that in their hearts, in their understanding of the Sabbath, they missed the whole point. A legalist wants to debate the rules. That's what always happens. They want us to say, that's not this. But the point wasn't which rules were the correct rules. The point was the basic way to approach God. That's why he backed up and he said, look, we gave you 10 commandments, me and my Father, and now I'm going to put them in your heart. You don't have to worry about this interpretation that you have. I'm going to put it in your heart. You're going to know whether it's right or wrong, what you're doing. That just threw them for a loop. Oh no, I don't have any guide rails now. I'll be going down the street and hitting the curb on every side, because I don't know which way I'm going.
So they had it in their head the first.
That's right. Okay, Darla, top of page 6.
Now, it passed in those days that he went out to the mountain to pray, and he continued all night in prayer to God. And when it was day, he called his disciples to himself, and from them he chose 12, whom he also named apostles.
Okay. Now this is telling us, we know at first that there was as many as 70 disciples that they had. He sent out 70 disciples to go around. He was teaching them. Here he's calling these 12, his 12 disciples, that's going to be his apostles. And apostles just means they're followers. They're messengers for him. And that's what they're going out and going to do. But before that, he went ahead, and again, as we've seen several times, he goes out up into a mountain, gets away from the people, and he's praying about it. And it says he prayed all night long, and then when it became day, he continued on. He didn't sleep. If it was very little. And he called his disciples to him. Now these disciples, on the next page, on page 7, they're the same disciples. Sometimes they're in a slightly different order. Sometimes their names are slightly different because somebody calls them by one name, the first name, some calls by a surname, whatever. So it says the 12 are listed. Simon, whom he also named Peter. See there already. Simon's got Peter. And then his brother Andrew, James and John, Philip and Bartholomew, Matthew and Thomas. Now see, we haven't heard of Bartholomew up to now. That's another. Thomas. James, the son of Alphaeus. Well, who is that? Well, and the other one is called James the Lesser. Okay. Simon, called the Zealot. Well, another one is, I think he's Simon of Cana, I believe is what one of them calls him. And then Judas, the son of James. Okay, they had 2 Judases in the group. But normally they didn't call him Judas. Okay, we'll see here in just a minute. We'll turn the page. But then he had Judas Iscariot, who also became the traitor. So they identified him. There was a different Judas. Okay. So on the next page, let's see where it says there. Okay, Judas, the son of James, is also called Thaddeus. Bartholomew is also called Nathaniel. Now, we've heard Nathaniel before. That's in the middle of page 8. Matthew and Levi, that's the same person, but two different names. Thomas was also called Didymus. It's not listed here, but in another place it's called Didymus, which is called the twin. So we don't know if Thomas had a twin, okay, or what. Why would he be called Didymus if he wasn't? So I don't know. And then James, the son of Alphaeus, and then Simon the Zealot. And like I said, that one, I think it was Simon of the Canaanite, I believe is what another one of them called. So Jesus chose Judas Iscariot knowing him and what he would do, also knowing that God would allow and even use that great evil, Judas, for great good, despite the intention of Judas. Now, I'm sure Judas himself didn't go into it thinking that he was going to try to betray Jesus. And The Chosen, I think, has done a real good example of that, in my opinion, of showing that a person going into something, but yet he's holding back some. His old mentor talked to him about, doing some stuff, and he said, well, you're keeping the purse, don't you get paid for that? He said, well, no, but well, you ought to keep a little of that for yourself, just in case. And Judas kind of pragmatically said, okay, I'll hold some back in case we need it later. Well, he just happened to slip that in his pocket later. Okay, so. Okay, let's go to the next page, Brother Epperson.
And he came down with them and stood on a level place with a crowd of his disciples and a great multitude of people from all Judea and Jerusalem and from the seacoast of Tyre and Sidon, who came to hear him and to be healed of their diseases, as well as all those who were tormented with unclean spirits, and they were healed. The whole multitude sought to touch him, for power went out from him and healed them all.
Okay, that to me underlined, he healed them all. And that we don't know, but we do know when the lady with the issue of blood, when she touched him, virtue went out of him. He felt that. So if he felt that every time I don't know that he did, but if he felt that every time he healed somebody, you talk about how tired would you be? That's work for him. He's doing something. And here's where it says he stood on a level place. Some people thinks that, and we were out on where they had what they think was where the sermon was given, one of the sermons, maybe this sermon. And it's a gradual slope down to the Galilee. It's not totally flat, and it's not a mountain. Okay? So here again, is it the Sermon on the Mount, or is it what they're turning to now? We know Jesus taught, and just like pastors today, you don't ever preach the same sermon, do you? Our overseers are good examples of that. They'll visit different churches and they'll have their set few sermons that they give. Okay, this may be another example. It's what they're saying. Could be another example of where it doesn't match exactly what's in Matthew, but that's okay, because sometimes I can tell you, anytime you talk, doesn't have to teach or preach or whatever. You're going to do it a little different every time, because you're going to say things, something will pop up in your head that's different. And that's what was going on here. All the people, his fame was growing and he was healing. And when he healed everybody, they would just keep coming, you would think. They would just keep coming and coming and coming. So this was another one, and they call this maybe the Sermon on the Plain because of the level place. There are certainly many level places there in that area. It could have been a separate time or not. We don't know. Iris, the next one is on page 10.
Then he lifted up his eyes towards his disciples and said,
Well, that leaves us hanging. Okay, so go to page 12 and read the next part, the finish of 20. Yeah, it's, got it? Blessed in the, there in the.
Blessed are you poor, for yours is the kingdom of God.
Okay. There are 2 pages here. We can go through this, and I've kind of summarized some of this, but you can go through and catch up on that. So he's starting now to preach. He's healed everybody that's came there. Now he's going and teaching. He's starting in what we call reference the Sermon on the Mount. Some of the same stories, the same things that he said over there. He's saying them a little different, okay? Here he said, blessed are you poor. Now over there is blessed are you poor, that are poor in spirit. Okay? Is that different? Well, maybe a little bit, but so each one of these is a little bit, but he's telling them yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed means happy. I think we've talked about that before. So it means happy is the one when you are poor. Now it doesn't mean that it's what they say, it's easier to serve somebody when you don't have anything to give up. Okay? When you basically lost all and that's your only hope, a person is your only hope. That's what some of these people were, because they had some infirmities, and we see a lot of them that have been mentioned so far. He was their last hope. So it was easy for them to believe in him. Okay? They had exhausted. Doesn't necessarily mean poor financially. Could be. Okay? But they had just used up all that they had used. And they were his last, or he was their last hope. And this is why this lesson's so long, because it's got a lot of detail in it. So I'm going to skip on over to page 14. And Tammy, you can read that. It's the top of 14.
Blessed are you who hunger now, for you shall be filled.
Okay? Whenever something gets interesting, you want more of it. You want to learn more of it. When you start studying, most people, I'll say it that way. When you start studying and you start thinking about something, and then your brain starts, well, what about this? And what about that? And then you start looking in the scripture for these things and how it happens and what happens to it. That's what he's hunger. Yes, you're hungry for food, and you'll go towards that food source. Same way with your spirit. When your spirit's hungry, you'll go after that, wherever, to help you learn, to help you. You're going to be filled. It says a hungry person seeks. They look for food and hope to satisfy their appetite. Their hunger drives them and gives them a focus. And that's what he's telling them, those that have that focus. And there are several examples if you want to talk about those in there. It's kind of, read about it. It's in there. You can go through. It's good, but we just don't have enough time to go through all of it. Top of page 15, Darnell.
Blessed are you who weep now, for you shall laugh.
Okay. The weeping is for the low and needy condition of both the individual and society, but with the awareness that they are low and needy because of sin. All right? You who weep actually weep over sin and its effects. Spurgeon said, I do not believe in the faith which has not a tear in its eye when it looks to Jesus. Dry-eyed faith seems to me to be a faith, not born of the Spirit of God. It's something that when we feel that Spirit, it's the one that it drives us. It's what motivates us. And that's part of it. What did John do when he saw God? What did Elijah do when he fell down weeping? It's just, he is so glorious and so it evidently, it immediately hits you. You are so unworthy when they see, even the angels, okay, when the people see that and that's what he's saying, that we can weep now, we have problems and we have things, but when we see Christ, he's going to wipe away all our tears. That's what it tells us. Page 16. Blessed are you when men hate you. Oh, crud. And when they exclude you and revile you and cast out your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake. Rejoice in that day and leap for joy. For indeed your reward is great in heaven. For in like manner their fathers did to the prophets. We're seeing a lot of this today. Not, quote, in this case, we see it even in the United States starting. But we've seen, I read an article today on a guy, he was quoting facts from, I think is the UK, from the UK, stating those facts, but the way he was saying it, basically saying it's wrong. Not, this is what these facts are telling us. They took that wrong. They took it that you're lying about those facts, and they put him in jail. He's already spent like £400,000 on his attorneys and stuff. It's just amazing what's happening in the world today. We don't have a right, other than when some big, billionaire or whoever, Satan, wants us to think any differently. It says this speaks of the extent of hatred that would be brought against the followers of Jesus. Every one of them except one died. Well, they all died. Okay. Let me restate that. Every one of them died, were tortured, except one. Okay, John wasn't tortured. The Apostle John. Said it didn't take long for these words of Jesus to become true of his early followers. Early Christians heard of many enemies, had many enemies, excluded them, reviled them, and regarded them as evil. Christians were accused of cannibalism because of misrepresentation of the practice of the Lord's Supper. Immorality because of gross, deliberate misrepresentation of weekly love feasts they had in their meetings. And that's just having the communion, okay? And you can read, there's several others. They take something and they blow it all out of proportion is what's happened. It's raining now. Brother Epperson?
But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. Woe to you who are full, for ye shall hunger. Woe to you who laugh now, for ye shall mourn and weep. Woe to you when all men speak well of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets.
He's just identifying them with history. Okay? When the prophets spoke, we've seen the kings. Oh, I don't like, what was that, Ahab said, oh, I don't like him, he always prophesies against me. I think it's Micah. I don't like him, he always prophesies against me. Well, there is a reason why that happened, because you are a wicked king. It's just one of those things. It's going to happen. So if it happens and starts, I'm sure it'll start happening here more and more. I just don't know when the Lord's going to say done and be gone with it. But it's starting to happen in the United States. They're starting to do, some states are starting to impose their rule on what we think. Iris, on 18.
But I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, and pray for those who spitefully use you.
Oh, I can't do that. That's crazy. Why are we talking about that? That's what they said. That's why it just blew them away that he said, love your enemies. Love the Romans? No, we hate the Romans. They're the ones that, have got us impoverished now. They're the ones that just totally, they could not comprehend that, what he was telling them to do. Bless those that curse you. It says, we cannot love our enemies as we love our nearest and dearest. To do so would be unnatural, impossible, and even wrong. But we can see to it that no matter what a man does to us, even if he insults us, ill-treats us, and injures us, we still seek nothing but his highest good. That's hard to do. It's hard not to want to get back. Okay? Okay, Tammy?
To him who strikes you on the one cheek, offer the other also. And from him who takes away your clothes, do not withhold your food either. Give to everyone who asks of you, and from him who takes away your goods, do not ask them back.
Okay. Now they have a little bit different take on the comments of the striking. It says when a person insults us, that's what they're saying, strikes us on the cheek, we want to get back at them. What they gave. Oh, yeah, that's so much, jumps off me, sticks to you, whatever the little kids say. Something like that. Yeah. And instead, it says we trust God to defend us. France points out that the ancient Jewish writings say that striking someone with the back of a hand is a severe insult, was punishable by a very heavy fine according to the Mishnah. So it's like if they insult you, okay, fine, you didn't hurt me, you didn't kill me. Still you're to speak good of them. That's tough. That's real hard to do. True Christian, Jesus says here, true Christian has learned to resent no insult and to seek retaliation for no slight. When we think how Jesus himself was insulted and spoken against, we see how he lived this principle himself. He was called a glutton, a drunk, illegitimate child, blasphemer, madman, all kinds of things. Okay, let's go on down to page 21. Darla? 21, yeah. Top of it.
Just as you want men to do to you, you also do to them likewise.
Okay. Now they had a thing. This is the golden rule. Okay? Whatever you want men to do to, you need to be good on what you do. Said the golden rule was not invented by Jesus. I take that back because his timing right there, he says about AD 820. Well, Jesus was born, who knows it? Anyway, he said, is challenged by a Gentile to summarize the law in the short time the Gentile could stand on one leg. He reportedly responded, what is hateful to you, do not do to anyone else. Okay, well, what that's saying is basically the negative. Okay? Don't do bad to anybody. What did Jesus say? Jesus made it much broader. It's the difference between not breaking traffic laws and doing something positive like helping a stranded motorist. Okay? If you're driving the speed limit, you're doing okay. No, somebody's broke down on the side of the road, you need to find out what's wrong with them and help them. That's the difference in helping your neighbor and doing good for your neighbor. Okay, top of page 22. But if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. And if you lend to those whom you hope to receive back, they can pay, what credit is that to you? For even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much back. But here's the kicker. Love your enemies. Do good and lend, hoping for nothing in return. and your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, for he is kind to the unthankful. For he is kind to the unthankful and the evil. That's hard to believe. That's what Jesus wanted to believe. Even though that they were hurting him, what did he do? At the very end, don't lay these to their cause. Don't put these on them. Okay? Brother Everson, 36 through 38.
Therefore be merciful, just as your Father also is merciful. Judge not, that ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be put into your bosom. For with the same measure that you use, it will be measured back to you.
Okay. So here he sets up the example in what it is. Now, does he say judge not? Don't judge at all? He didn't say that. He says judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Okay? The way you judge is going to be coming, and in other places, it's going to be coming back to you. You need to judge, and he follows that up here in just a little bit with a couple examples. So, when people says, oh, the Bible says you can't judge, you don't judge. Well, I'm not judging. The Bible says this. I'm not judging you at all. If you're getting condemned of it, that's your problem. I mean, that's basically what it is. What you have to tell people when they want to try to put it back on you. But that goes back to love your enemies. Forgive, and it'll be forgiven you. It's hard to, I've seen a little story, it's one of the Chosen Adventures. It said to love, always turn things around when there's bullying, when somebody's trying to bully you or push. Always try to turn it back around to them. Give them something good in return. When they want to be hurtful, when they want to be, he said, that's not right. This is the way I want to be. And that's, you kill them with kindness, is the way it's put today. Whenever they want to be bad with you, okay, I'll do something good for them. I won't get back at them. I won't try to hurt them. That's the wrong way of doing it. Okay. Again, 2 or 3 pages on that commentary. Bottom of 25, Iris.
And he spoke a parable to them. Can the blind lead the blind? Will they not both fall into the ditch? A disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone who is perfectly trained will be like his teacher. And why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the plank in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, brother, let me remove the speck that is in your eye, when you yourself do not see the plank that is in your own eye? Hypocrite, first remove the plank from your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck that is in your brother's eye.
Okay. He starts out, can the blind lead the blind? No. I mean, what good is that? They can't see, they don't know where they're going. And if you're going to judge somebody, here it goes back to the judging, you need to judge them correctly. Okay? Not judge them on what you see is bad with them, because there's stuff bad with you too, and it's so bad that it's obscuring your vision of them. So that's where people get back, which is probably good. Just don't judge. If you want to help somebody, you can help them. Remove that splinter out of their eye, but you first have got to get that big plank out of your eye. Splinter is something really tiny, like a piece of dust or a hair or something. And a plank, that's a board. If that's in your eye, you're in trouble because you can't see nothing. Jesus reminded us some supposed leaders are blind. Beware of them. Later, Jesus said some of the religious leaders of his day, they are blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind lead the blind, both will fall into a ditch. That's from Matthew 14, 15 and 14. Okay, another couple pages. And we're on page 28. Tammy?
For a good tree does not bear bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. For every tree is known by its own fruit. For men do not gather figs from thorns, nor do they gather grapes from a bramble bush. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good. For an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth evil. For out of the abundance of his heart his mouth speaks.
Okay. And everybody knows what an apple tree makes, don't they? I hope. Unless you cross them, take a branch off this one and put it on there, you can do that. And they can cross-pollinate different fruits where you get what is that one thing your mom gets, that white peach? Oh, those are good. Or something like that. It's different. It's a different brand, but they cross them. Still a peach. You're not going to try to go get something off of thorns. There's nothing in thorns. Except blackberries, they do have thorns, but that's something else. But anyway, that's a blackberry bush. You're not looking for anything else besides blackberry. That's what he's trying to tell us. Whatever you're looking for, you need to look in the right place. If you're looking at somebody good, you'll find good stuff. If you're looking at somebody bad, you're probably not going to find any good stuff because all there is good is evil. All their teaching and everything. And it says, from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Whatever's in your heart. That's where it's so hard to keep our mouth shut when things come up and it bothers us. We just want to say something. That's not right or whatever. It's just hard to do. Okay, Darla, on page 29. Okay. Now, it says Jesus made a distinction between those who merely make a verbal profession of faith and those who actually both hear his sayings and do them. Okay, you can hear somebody say, "Hey, that's good. I like that," but then you don't do anything about it. If it hits you and you don't change your life or change what you're doing, it doesn't do anything for you. When you hear something and you call him Lord, you're making that confirmation that that's right. I should be doing that same thing. Okay? It's not what everybody else, or go and do something different. That's not right. Whatever he is telling us. If he is telling, if we're calling him Lord, that means somebody that I want to follow, then we should follow him. And it goes about with the example, if you build your house on a rock. When we built the houses that we had, what do they do first of all? They make a stem wall. They go out and they dig down to where it's pretty tough, packed in, and put a stem wall in, pour concrete and everything. And if it's real shaly or real like around here, sometimes that house, the earth underneath it moves a little bit, that house is kind of moving. Doors are hard to open, things like that. But when they put those pillars, Mom and Dad's house was like that, it was on the side of a hill. It started getting little cracks in it. What'd they do? They went in there and they drilled a bunch of holes down till they hit rock. And then they put a bar down in there and jacked it up to where it held it even. So that house is not going to move. That's what when the house is built on the rock, that rock is going to be stable. Storm come up and it can't wash away. Those that are on sand, you know, or something that moves a lot, it's going to fall. So song that we used to sing in Gleaners. Out, the rains came down and the floods came up. The rains came down. Y'all don't remember that probably.
I've never heard
Never.
Down and
And the walls came tumbling down. So, yeah. All right. Appreciate everybody coming out.